Hi guys, it's Veronica. It feels like forever since I've done a video, but I really appreciate everyone's comments and the messages I've been getting. Momster, your message came at just the right time. It really did. You are so awesome. But I don't know how to send messages on YouTube. I actually wrote you a reply and it got kicked back to me because you can't do it in the email. And on my iPad, I can't find the place where you send messages. The reflection on my glasses is driving me nuts. I don't know how to make it where there's not a reflection there, but I need my glasses, so sorry. But yeah, it's just been a crazy week and a half, and I'm trying to get that straight. Technically, you guys know I'm not good at this stuff. You guys gave me such shit about admitting that I duct taped the phone to me to make a video, but hey, that's how I roll. But I have been getting the messages, and Renee, I can see what you wrote, but it's not showing up on the video, so I can't reply to it, and I can't send a message, but I want to do the tarot tag. I do. I have a deck in mind that I want to do it with. It's just I have been so busy this week with clients and changing out appliances and just, life drama and stuff like that. So I got some really good things in the mail, and one deck in particular that I have to share. And there were a couple things I wanted to touch on. Farfalla Aroma. I love that name because Farfalla is the name of the Page of Swords in the Nicoletta deck. It just made me think of that. I think it means butterfly. But I do want to touch on several of the things you talked about. And I have several videos lined up. This is just a quick one I want to do in between. I had some clients come, and now I've got a couple of hours before my husband have to go do some, we're actually going to do some social things tonight. But I put on my comfy YouTube clothes and decided to see what I had time for today. But I do have things planned for this weekend. But I've also been I'm really working on my deck, and it's taking, it's a lot of work, but it's going to be great. So I don't want to not make videos though. So let's see, what am I going to start with? Oh, first of all, and I have to message Nina and let her know that I got them. I got the Oracle of the Oddities, and I loved it, and I was able to finally get the first edition. So there's already videos and flip-throughs. Nobody here did a great one, but I was so glad to get it, and Customs held it for about 6 weeks. It finally came in. And I also got her Antique Anatomy Tarot. It's really, really cool. Nobody here also did a side-by-side with not just the Oracle of the Oddities, but of the two editions of this deck, the tarot deck. And I never really was that interested in the first edition, but the second edition has these changes that, I don't know, I really, really like it. And she's working on a tarot deck that looks more like the Oracle, which is going to be absolutely amazing. So I was really, really happy to get that in. I love these decks. And just today I got my color version, where's the box? The color version of the CED deck. And I got the pouch because I have the black and white version in the pouch. And this deck, here's what the backs look like. This deck, the color version is beautiful. I like the black and white version, but the color version is beautiful. I will admit there is a lot to this deck. I'm in the Facebook group to study it, but there's so much more. This is a very deep deck, and right now I'm working so hard on my deck. I can't devote the time I want to actually learn about this deck, but I wanted to go ahead and get it because I knew I'd want it, having the black and white version. Another deck that I got in was I backed it. It was the Starlight Dragon. And it comes in a very nice box. And it has a nice guidebook. And in the back of it, it has the symbols that it uses for the trumps. And it explains each card. But the cards themselves are what is really, really interesting. Let me show you. Okay, here's the back of the cards. They're square, but they're meant to be laid down like this. This is the extra seeker card. And when you lay them down, you lay them, you know, point to point like that. So the extra seeker card is really cool. And then this would be the Ace of Wands, has the fire symbol at the bottom. And then that's the Four of Cups. So they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And the way you lay them down, they make such a cool picture. The gilding is, this is the second deck I've got lately that has this soft gold gilding instead of that hard, like metallic gilding. And they're done beautifully. And there's also at least one spread. Now there's a couple spreads, but see the way the cards lay out? It's kind of like, well, it's exactly the shape of, if you guys have that Russian gypsy deck, that shaped the same way. I have it. I don't use that one because the paper's so thin. I want to laminate the paper and, you know, trim off the lamination before I use it. But these are really good stock. This is interesting too, the way that they did the quartz. Now, their quartz, they do in a different order. And I'll just go to the court cards. They have a, they use all the symbols. And they put pages as earth, knights as air. Almost everybody put queens as water. And then, but their kings are fire. And a lot of people do their elements that way. I don't. I do the opposite, and I do it as if it was a progression. And to me, it's air. You think it's internal. And then it becomes, when you're ready to actually do something, it's fire. Those are the knights. It's wands. And that becomes external and you do it. Then the queens are water. When it becomes internal again, you learn some lessons, you gain some receptivity, and you actually gain some authority in it. And then it's outward again, which is the kings. That's earth. That's mastery. That's solid. And I believe that things do that cycle, inward and outward, and every time it gets stronger. Well, the thing about this deck is, however you associate it, you just change it. So that's my page, which I put first. And there's my fire. And you can tell, even if you get these confused sometimes, the knights will have some red in it. And see how the pages, there's a little bit, there's a swirling, it has some air. And then the queens, that's the water. And then the king is the earth of water. And there's a little bit of green in with the kings. So you can change them up. In my deck, I'm doing the same thing, but the triangles, I get confused sometimes with those triangles. So I'm using symbols. So, you know, there'd be waves for the water and then like a fire symbol. So you can do the same thing. You can place them in the order that you want based on, you know, instead of page, it's not even called page, knight, king, queen. I'll just have the elements on there too. But I liked that they, you know, explained how they associated it, but you can put them in whatever order you want. So this deck is really cool and I was happy to have it. Today I got in the mail my Pagan Otherworlds deck that I showed trimmed. That day I had all the decks out. I lost my tower. And I did buy a second deck to keep untrimmed because look how beautiful they look untrimmed. And for client readings and all, I'm going to use the untrimmed deck. But I lost my trimmed tower. It has to be somewhere in here, but I just like tore the place apart and couldn't find it. And I emailed them and they were nice enough on Monday to send me another one out. And I got it today. So that is great customer service. That is great. And what is it? UUSI. They just sent me another postcard. But the deck that I really, really, that came in that just blew me away, was one that I got every time I do a live chat with Kelly's Truth and Story live chats. It's either her or someone else, usually Kelly. I end up going and ordering a deck or two. And I'll admit, I am a deck brat. And if I really want a deck, I get it. But I have hundreds of decks. And it's funny, I like it when people show their deck collections or their top, even more than their top 10 or 5. I can't show you mine because it looks like the tarot edition of Hoarders on that side of the room. Especially since I've been doing videos and I want to bring out certain decks and all that. It's such a mess. But with all the decks I have, you know, that I can only think of one angel deck, and that's Fallen Angels, an Oracle. It's not like I buy every deck I see. It's the decks I'm attracted to. I don't have a lot of Fae or Fairy, but with over 500 decks, of course, there's some Fae or Fairy, but that's not usually my thing. So even though I'm a little selective, I know I get a lot of decks. And the last round, I ordered the Waterhouse Oracle that Kelly used, and I have the 7 stars that has a whole lot of cards. This one was different. This one has a system to it, and there's a die that comes with it. And you can even do, it doesn't have to be Waterhouse. There's other artists, but I really like the Waterhouse. And that hasn't come yet. But the deck that did come was the Margarete Petersen Tarot. And I tell you what, I get decks that come in, and some are kind of, you know, meh. Others are like, oh, it was great. That's, you know, that's what I wanted. But it's very rare when a deck comes in that just hits you. Just the last time I remember that happening was when I received the Nicoletta Tarot. And it just, you know, that's going to be a big one for you. And this is the Fool. And as soon as I saw that one, I knew. I ended up trimming them, but I almost didn't trim just because I have such high regard for the artist. If this is the way she wanted the cards, but I had to because the artwork is just, it's an amazing, to say it's an amazing deck is to say the least. And when I put my decks in the order that I put my my corpse in. And you know how I said internal, external. When you're flipping through, and this is why I love trim decks. Okay, you go through the majors and you see all the different colors, but then you go to the cups. It's internal. I mean swords. It's internal, and then it goes external. Then you go back internal again, and then back external. Even with the colors, just flipping through, you can see how the elements change and the colors she uses. And I mean, this is a woman who lives tarot, this was like a life's work. These are paintings that she's just done throughout her life. And this deck, you just go into the deck. And I think that this is more of a reader's deck. I think clients will love it, and I could see me using it for clients, but I think that even more so, it's effective as a reader's deck, as a deck that you can get into the cards and explore, and it will help you grow. It reminds me of, I only have another deck that I think of like that, and that's the Tildwick. This is the Tildwick. And I had received the Tildwick in with a few other decks, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. And then I'm showing it to my best friend, and I'm like, just look though, it's like indistinguishable, you can't tell them apart. And she's like, yeah, and she still doesn't like the deck. But as I'm showing it to her, I'm really looking for the first time. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I hadn't really given it a look. And what stopped me short was the Devil card. Now, I have, with a gold pen, I have labeled the cards because the print is so small. And I did it in gold, and like you can see it. I didn't want it to be real obvious, but I didn't want to have to search too hard because I like getting lost in these cards. What I realized about these cards, and it's set in, it's like in a house, but, and then around the house there's fountains and atrium. This is the Two of Cups, and it's outside. The thing that I love about this deck is it doesn't matter what system you use, I don't think. There's the Emperor card. And let me show you the one that I just absolutely love. There's the Hermit. Here's the Star. The Four of Cups. This one, the Justice card. I love that card. This is like a deck that you can think of, it's like a house of tarot that you built. And you can roam inside the house and in the gardens and whatever. And what you can do with this deck, it doesn't matter what system you use or how you see the cards, it can encompass that, plus give you room to expand. This is a reader's deck. The courts are awesome. The pages are all outside. Here is the, no, that's the queen. I put the queen in there. Let me get the queen back where she belongs. They're outside, and that has like a reflecting pool. But this is more like a really fancy fire pit, the Page of Wands. But the pages are all like contemplative places outside. The knights are all fireplaces in the interior. And then the queens are fountains or water structures that are outside the house. And then the kings are all atriums that have checkered floors. So to me, it's very, very subtle, but it's a very deep deck. And like I said, it's just, it encompasses everything I believe. It gives me room to explore and expand a little bit. Well, the Margarete Petersen does that, but takes me off the reservation. This is more like global, more outward than that, more spiritual, more, it takes you outside of the house and the grounds. It's just mind-blowing to me. And this is what it's all about. This is what I love about tarot. This is one of those moments that, and the guidebook is one of the best, especially for a small guidebook. I don't pay a lot of attention sometimes to Little White Book. Companion books I like. Is it Katie Flowers that has a companion book, favorite companion book thing going around, and I want to do that. This one, she has a nice introduction and a friend wrote. The trumps, there's a poem for each one. And then I love how she describes the courts and she describes every card. But my favorite was the last page, How to Read a Tarot Cards. It was exactly what I believe. It was, and I'm going to read some of it. My favorite part. What do I really want to know? The more precise the question, the more precise the answer. I personally don't ask questions that pertain exclusively to the future. This usually leads to more confusion instead of clarity. You might lose yourself in the labyrinth of a myriad of possibilities and eventualities. You should avoid asking questions about people that are not present. If you want to know something about someone, ask that person directly and not through the cards. This would be like secretly reading the diary of another person. A time-tested method is asking questions on how things are at the moment. In this matter, you bring your attention to the present that contains the past as well as the future. And the last sentence is, getting to know the cards requires time. It is a process of slowly entering into the world of tarot. That's beautiful, and it's so true. And, oh God, I just love it. And that's pretty much the decks that I wanted to show. I did want to highlight a couple of videos that the day that I almost made a video and I just didn't have it in me, another thing I love about our community and about tarot is instead I ended up watching other people's videos, and they just fed me that day. I needed it. Elise from Wild Moon Woman, oh, hers just, it was what I needed to hear, and it was so strong. And she was sick. She did the video and she was sick, but you couldn't tell because she's so stinking beautiful, you know. But she made that video, and then there's Christine and Celeste. She did a video on a chakra spread, and she kind of explained the chakras, and she did it as she was doing the video. Well, I used my Margarete Petersen deck, and I did it right along with her, and it was amazing. I'm gonna do chakra spreads for clients now. It was so good, and I'm gonna link it after. I'm gonna have to wait till after I upload, and then I'll link it. And another one that was just spot on, and I needed it, Ethony. Ethony is awesome, and I don't want to get it. What is it? 6 ways to get over being wrong when giving a tarot reading. I'm going to link it below too. So spot on. Something that people need to know. And Farfalla Aroma, when you're talking about tips and starting out. Well, this is one of the important things. And I'm not going to touch on all the things she talked about because she did it much better than I could. And you should watch the video. But I will touch on something that I think everybody feels, that was talking about your fear of being wrong, your fear of doing readings because, oh my God, what if I'm wrong? Okay, the thing about that is, and I totally get it, for so many years, you know, I just read for myself and but when I did start reading for clients and close friends, every time I would read and it would be awesome, I almost kind of wanted to put the cards down and go, okay, well, that's it. I want my batting average to be good. I was just so afraid of the day we'd both be looking at the cards and just nothing. You know, I was so afraid of that. And it wasn't until I went to the tarot conference that I gained some confidence and started figuring out, well, this is how it works. And it's not gonna, and even if that does happen, it's not the end of the world. The point is, I understand that fear, but things start really moving when you really start doing readings. When I started doing readings for strangers, everything just started going at warp speed because it taught me so much and I learned so much more, and it was putting it more into practice, not just with these few people I know, but with strangers. And that would always happen in pubs or festivals or a place where I had my cards out and was just playing with it. And it's a great way, if you want to start reading for strangers, to do it that way, because there's no money involved, so there's not expectation either way, but it just changes things. But here's the thing about that fear. No matter what you start doing, whether it's a career or a hobby, but in any career, of course you're afraid to start, but I don't care what you do. When you start doing it, there are going to be mistakes, and you learn from them. And you can't let that fear keep you from starting, because once you start, that's when it all starts happening. And I'll liken it to when I went to beauty school. And I wanted to go to beauty school. I thought it'd be fun, but I wasn't planning on doing it for a vocation forever. I was just gonna do it while I went to college. I knew I just couldn't take full loads, you know, in college. I wasn't ready to do that. So I thought beauty school will be a fun year, and then I'll have a fun job while I'm, you know, working to be a teacher. And I became best friends with this girl, and we became friends with another 2 best friends. So the 4 of us all through beauty school were so tight. And the 3 of them had wanted to be hairdressers forever. One's mom was a hairdresser. They were gung-ho, and I'm like, I don't even fix my hair, and I just think it'll be a fun job to do while I'm going to college. But the weird thing is, a year after we graduated, I was the only one doing hair. And I talked to them, and I'm like, why? And it was their fear. I'm afraid I'll mess up. Now, I know in some jobs that's a little more scary than others. in reading tarot or cutting someone's hair. It's a personal service. You don't want to mess up. I get that. But my thought is, well, those are the people that really need to get past that and do it because they care. At least they care. You guys know how hard it is to find a good hairdresser. I had that same fear too, but I had confidence in myself, and you have a consultation. Shit, the first day I was working, I was working in this little salon first, and it took a while for a walk-in to come in, and it was this older man. He was considerably old, and Wally, he was so sweet, and he sits down in my chair, and I started asking him questions, and he said, so how long have you been doing hair? And I said, you are my very first client, like right now. And he cracked up. He thought it was funny, you know, and he left, and he followed me for the rest of his life. But when he left, the owner of the salon was like, what the hell? You cannot say you just started doing hair. I said, well, I did. She said, you were in beauty school for a year. Say you've been doing, people don't want to hear that. Say you've been doing hair a year. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm so glad I did it. You can only get one chance to say you're my very first one. But later that week, a guy came in for a haircut, and he was very, very picky. And I'd go over everything in the consultation. I don't ask questions during a haircut, you know? So he said, just the one thing, my hair has to be over my ears. It has to be over my ears. I'm like, okay. So I'm doing it, and I get that side, and I go, rump, over his ear. He freaks out. I said, wait, you wanted it over your ears? He meant over his ear. I learned an important lesson that day. Consultations and communication is very important, but covering the ear, that term is too ubiquitous. It needs to be above the ear or covering the ear, not over the ear. Over the ear could be either one. So I learned from that. And I mean, I did sound, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to do the other ear like it. He didn't come back. He didn't become a client. So, but I still remember that. And in doing hair almost 30 years, I don't have like big oopses, but because it's something I love to do and I'm passionate to do. But watch Ethony's video because she's spot on with what to do when that happens. But the first thing is you've got to get over your fear of it. The magic starts happening when you start doing the readings and doing it. So that was basically it. I just wanted to check in, show you my amazing deck that came in. Thank you, Kelly, for showing it and being such an awesome enabler. And I will make a playlist of reviews on this deck, especially ones like Kelly. I know she's done some videos, because people, when it's a deck I love, or that I'm showing, I want to show other people's reviews, because I can tell you what I think about a deck and how I feel and all that, but I can't review like Kelly and Sacred Seed, and they do these awesome like in-depth reviews. But I love this deck, and I don't even want to watch those reviews yet myself, because I haven't even finished reading this. I want to kind of get my impression of each card and using it, and then deepen it by reading these and watching the videos. I'm really looking forward to watching the reviews. I just need a little bit more time with the deck. So, oh, I did want to point out one more thing. Someone was asking me about tarot parties. Those are a lot of fun. And you can this is also a good thing if, I do it professionally, and they'll hold it at their house, and they'll invite their girlfriends, and I'll come with my decks, and it's a set price for each one. But one of my friends who threw my first tarot party got me this. Isn't this awesome? It's big, but it's beautiful, very steampunky, and it goes to a half an hour. At a tarot party, we don't want the readings to go over a half an hour, because it's not as in-depth. But I do the Mother Piece spread, which I'll do a video on, or the Majors on Majors, they pick. But this lets us know when we're getting close to time you know, because out of the tarot parties then, and then I have my cards that I give out, and I always have my cards in public. You know, when I have my deck on me, that's another thing. Always have your cards with you. But the one-on-ones are different. I don't, and I'm just building, so other people are different. But I don't really put a time limit on the one-on-ones. And we do a couple different spreads, and we can get really in depth. But the tarot parties are great. But if you want to read for strangers and you don't really know, well, have a couple close friends that you have read for, invite some of their friends, and do it as fun. But for me, it's a part of my business. But I just wanted to show this because that's freaking awesome. So I did want to touch on that, is that's pretty much how I do my tarot parties. And that's it for today. But I do, Renee, Dante's deciding he wants to get under the pillows that I have my tripod on. So much for that. So, but Renee, I do want to do that tarot tag. I might do the video on it today, and I want to try to watch your video again, because I had no idea what that deck is, and people have figured it out by now, I'm sure. So I'll have videos coming up. If you have any comments or ideas for other videos, if I didn't touch on something you had asked about, just let me know. And if you message me, I'll probably have to send a comment or something until I can figure out how to message you back through YouTube. So that's it for today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. See ya.